The first phase of free agency is done, and by all accounts, the Vikings aced it. KOC has firmly stated that J.J. McCarthy is his starting quarterback. But who will be brought in to mentor his progress? What do Rondale Moore and Jordan Mason add to the Vikings offense? What direction will the Vikings take in the draft? Oh, so many questions. Here are the fellas to break it all down.
Good evening, everybody. And we have a big show set for you here on the official Purple Skull Squad show for Minnesota Viking fans. On the bottom left corner, our big game, Torrey Holt. Torrey, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on tonight.
Oh, yeah, looking forward to that. Up on the right-hand corner, the one that keeps things straight on the show, the one that has logic because he's actually played the game of football, the one, the only, Tony Bell. How you doing, Tony?
I'm here. Let's do it.
Well, there's a lot to get into, a lot of positive things to get into, all right? We know we got to keep our excitement level down. We do have to keep it down because you don't win championships in the offseason, but it certainly helps. And I think the Minnesota Vikings so far in free agency, Torrey and Tony, have done an amazing job. They've added so many different toys to the list on this roster that these two happen to join together.
Ryan had signed before me, and texted me. He's like, "You gonna come here with me, or what?" So I think that was a compelling argument to go play with him again. Was not a bad deal. So I was super fired up to know that he was going here and be able to join him. It was awesome. Yeah, I got a couple messages right after I agreed to the terms, and it was like a full court press on him, and I was like, I don't remember like talking to you a couple weeks ago. I don't remember Minnesota really being on the radar. And then sure enough, I'm laying out, and I get a phone call from Will Fries, and it was like all I heard was him and his fiance Izzy just going SKOL. And I was like, it took me a second. And I was like, what?
Yeah, what? Yes, the whole inside of the interior of the offensive line right there with Ryan Kelly and Will Fries signing contracts to be Minnesota Vikings. So I ask you this, and I know, Tony, you and I kind of talked about this, but so far, the Minnesota Vikings, I think, Torrey Holt, have done an incredible job. I gave him an A- last week. That might go up because I really was waiting on Rondale Moore, and I thought he was actually going to end up in Chicago because he visited them after he visited us. But I think Kwesi and KOC and Brian Flores, they've done a really good job so far.
I think they've done a really good job as well. I really like the Jordan Mason trade. I think that was huge. Last year against the Vikings in the I think that was the home opener in San Francisco, and Mason went for over 100 yards in that game, but he's a real physical back. And when they lost McCaffrey last year, he really took a huge load off of that offense and the quarterback, Brock Purdy. And I think with the Vikings here, if you look at the years that they were competitive, they always had two star running backs. You had Robert Smith, of course, and Leroy Horde in 98 and 09. You had Chester Taylor, Adrian Peterson, and now here you have, and I'm not comparing Aaron Jones to Adrian Peterson, but Aaron Jones is a 1,000-yard back from a year ago, and then you bring in Jordan Mason now to complement him well. I do think Jordan Mason is a step up from Chester Taylor, from Leroy Horde in the past. Jordan Mason's going to give you a little more in the backfield. So that's going to take a lot of pressure off if the Vikings aren't making another move at quarterback, which we'll get into a little bit later, obviously. But a guy who is right now, if we're going with J.J. McCarthy, this is a guy that didn't practice for most of all of the regular season last year. Essentially, you're coming in as a rookie. You're going to have to shoulder a big load in the backfield.
Yeah, that's a good point, Torrey. And I think the other thing that we saw, Tony, with this Vikings team down the stretch of last year, Aaron started off really, really well. But because Ty Chandler really wasn't able to help him out. Now, Cam Akers came in and did give the Vikings a little bit of a lifeline. But it looks like Aaron Jones has that reputation that the more you use him, the less he's going to be a central part of your offense as the season winds down, although he did own the Dallas Cowboys in the playoffs. But I think this guy is what we need. And just to piggyback on what Torrey said, Jordan Mason's going to definitely improve the running game, right, Tony? And the fact you get into goal line situations, you're going to hand it to 5'11", 225 with that new improved offensive line, and he should do a lot of damage considering the talent that he's going to bring to the Vikings.
There shouldn't even be a question when it's short yardage and goal line. You're going to put Mason back there. Mm-hmm. You're going to run behind Freeze and Kelly, and you're going to get positive yards. It's not rocket science. It's just football. So don't overthink this, KOC.
Yeah, well, we know he has a problem with that. He likes to get fancy down there, but maybe that's because Garrett Bradbury, Blake Brandel, and whomever they had at right guard, Ed Ingram and Dalton Reisner really sucked. And he felt like he had to throw it because he knew it was just a pointless adventure.
If you remember if you remember the first Bears game, we had the ball down there at the goal line. We couldn't get a yard for our lives.
Right.
Get a yard.
And that's we saw that on more than one occasion every game.
And the one aspect too, just to add to that, Tony, is the fact that Jordan Mason, I mean, he's only 25 years old, hasn't been used that much in the 2 years with the 49ers, and he happens to average 5.4 yards a carry. So this guy is going to bring that youthful exuberance story. And you're right. If it is right now, all indications it's J.J. McCarthy. We'll talk about that, the quarterback situations. If it's a really rookie quarterback, you better be able to run the ball effectively.
Yeah, you have to. And it's got, when you're talking about Aaron Jones, you're talking about a 30-plus-year-old running back as well that obviously last year he was dinged up at different times of the season. And there was a big downfall when Jones was out of the backfield last year in the running game. And you need him healthy. You need him in the game. And Jordan Mason is going to be able to shoulder a big load. Something that Cam Akers was good at times in short time, like short bursts of time. Mm-hmm. But for the long part of the season, Jordan Mason could really complement Aaron Jones very well and give the Vikings a real formidable running threat, which I don't feel like they had last year. And you guys, KOC doesn't tend to establish the run game at times in games. And it frustrates us.
Yeah, very frustrating.
Away from the run game too early. It seems that he abandons it too early. He really tries to run the game through the receivers. Yep. And then that sets up the run as opposed to running your game through the backfield and then trying to set up the pass. And obviously I would think that when you're with KOC wanting to use motion and fakes, you want to establish your run game to have a better opportunity to use the pass game, play action pass.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, Tori, indeed. And I also think what this offers, Tony, right, is you can go with the younger back early in the year, make him kind of like the number one running backs per se. Jordan can run it 15, 20 times a game. Aaron, you use sparingly 10 times. And then as the season moves on, you kind of equal it out. And then Aaron's fresher for the end of the season where he can be more dynamic as well as a pass receiver as a running back as well, Tony.
The scary thing with Aaron Jones is he's one hit away from being a season-ending injury. He seems really fragile. He just does. And there were games last year where he literally was gone. He got hit in the first quarter. Then you didn't see him for 2 quarters, and he came back in the fourth quarter.
Dalvin Cook was like that. His October was incredible. His September was incredible. And then all of a sudden those hits because of his body, his shoulder. He got that same type of Aaron Jones build. And eventually he just would break down as the season went on. Hopefully Jordan Mason can elongate the amount of success that Aaron Jones can have over the long term of a 17-game schedule.
Is it safe to see, guys? Is it safe to say that Ty Chandler's probably gone?
Especially, well, I think it's going to depend on the draft. But you know what? Because the next guy we're going to talk about, Rondell Moore, who I'm very excited about, can actually be used in a Deebo Samuel mode. So he actually will take a couple carries. So where does Ty Chandler come in if Rondell Moore is going to use his 4.29 speed? You know, he's only 5'7", but can you imagine with the Vikings' beefy offensive line now trying to spot Rondell Moore running? And then by the time you spot him, that 4.29 speed is already accelerated. And also, Rondell Moore, I don't know if anyone knows this, but the guy is strong, one of the stronger players in the NFL. He can squat 600 pounds. There's video of him.
I saw
this
that.
is when he was at
Purdue.
I did see that.
That's incredible.
I did see that.
Looks
So
like the Jalen Hurts video.
Yeah, he's like very much so. He's small, strong, and fast. Wow, I think KOC is going to be able to use him, Tony, in some exciting packages coming up this season.
Granted, he's got to stay healthy.
Seems to be the story of our running backs.
He's
right?
had 2 years where, he went to Atlanta. I had no idea he was with the Falcons last year.
Yeah, it's the whole season. Yeah.
So if he stays healthy, just another weapon, another toy for KOC. Which now when you put that offense with this defense, it's scary.
It is scary, and that's the thing with Rondell. I know, just like you said, Tori, Moore kind of owned the Vikings the 2 times he played them, kind of like Mason did last year.
The
Vikings. Yeah. So I'm excited because I think also this is a guy. We always said that. I thought we said this so many times. Like get our running backs in space, right? Or get our speedy guys in space. That's the only thing I think with KOC. He likes those intermediate to long plays that take forever to develop, forcing the quarterback to hold the ball. Well, now you might see, I think, Tori, more wide receiving screens with Rondell Moore in the slot, and you could just see him in the backfield. Maybe you do a fake handoff and just throw him a pitch out wide, like a screenplay. I think this offers the offense a lot more excitement of electricity and big play potential.
And I think the one thing that Kevin O'Connell does have to do a better job of course, is throwing the ball east and west at the line of scrimmage, getting the ball quickly into Justin Jefferson's hands, into Jordan Addison's hands. He doesn't like to do that a lot, and that's really. And I'm not gonna make any excuses, of course, for Sam Darnold, because I just am not gonna make those excuses for that guy. But what he did, because he held the ball so damn long, but a lot of the routes that were called were deep routes.
Yeah. And it forced
intermediate routes.
And cost him the rest on a bad offensive line.
Do we have any slant routes? I didn't see one last year that I can remember.
I know. If not, we probably took a sack on it.
Oh man. So, those are 2 new additions that we hadn't had a chance to talk about. But is there anyone else, Tori or Tony, that you're really excited about the Vikings signing this offseason before we get
I just wanted to make one more point before you go on to that on Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones didn't have a 90-plus yard game in the final 7 games of the season.
Yeah, he was hurt.
Yeah, he was hurt.
Yeah. He had that ankle thing, and then it wasn't the same. He looked like he was playing hurt, too, and I admire his
He had a shoulder, too, didn't he?
Yeah.
And 4 of his first 6 games of the season were over 90 yards.
Yeah. He looked electric.
Right. And so that kind of goes back to how, Dalvin Cook used to handle the offense, too, by himself. So it will be nice that the Jordan Mason trade stands out to me as the biggest move of the probably the most impactful, I suppose, flashiest move that the Vikings have made, and that could impact our offense. But of course, the offensive line, you guys. I mean, Tony, like how long have we, all the way back to Rick Spielman and all those years? We get Sam Bradford. We have a statue at quarterback that can zip the ball all over the place, but we couldn't protect him. No. And they were signing Remmers and Reef.
Reef, Jake.
Pat Elfline out of position.
TJ Cummings.
Yes.
That
Boone.
God.
Never getting it right, and hopefully we've got it right here on the offensive line this offseason.
Well, they had to change their attitude, too, with the new coach. So we'll see what happens. This coach has got a little fire to him, which this team needed that.
And I think adding Ryan Kelly and Will Fries is going to help out because they bring instant attitude.
They needed an attitude. They needed attitude on both sides of the ball.
You do. And they definitely took care of that on the other side of the ball. We know that when you get Hargrave and you get Jonathan Allen. I've loved watching Jonathan Allen. I hope he's healthy because, again, that's a big concern with him. Because when he's healthy, he occupies 2 of your offensive linemen and he pushes forward and you just see that pocket collapse. And that automatically causes stress on the opposing team's quarterback.
Right.
And then with the speed that we have on the corners and Dallas Turner, this is your time to shine now. Okay, with Van Ginkel and Grenard, with that speed that they're going to be putting out on the corners, it's going to cause so much problems for all the teams that are going up against the Vikings. But the big question now, the one I know Torrey Holt cannot wait to get to, and we're not going to wait any longer. There's been so much going on through the media, whether it's national, whether it's local, with what's going on with the Minnesota Vikings quarterback situation. The latest now is that the decision has been made that J.J. McCarthy, which Tony and I are very excited to see. We can't wait to see. And I know you are too, Tori. You're very excited to see as well.
Oh, yeah. Can't you see it on his face?
Well, I'm excited. I'm excited to maybe see it in 2026 or 27.
Right. So the name that's been bandied about, the one with the biggest traction, obviously, is Aaron Rodgers. Mm-hmm. And this is like getting to be a point where we're going back in time to 2009 all over again with someone by the name of Brett Favre, which was an incredible year. I will say I didn't like it at first, and then Brett Favre won me over pretty quickly. I think it was that San Francisco 49er game.
Oh, yeah.
When he got schmoltzed and threw the touchdown pass to Greg Lewis to win the game. I think
the
that
one
game
that
won
got me with Favre was the slant the seam route that he threw to Sidney Rice earlier in the game. Ooh. And he put some heat on that throw. Ooh. And I was like, this guy's not 40 years old. There's no way.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, well, he's legit.
That is the biggest thing is, will the Vikings go back down that road? Now, today, as of right now, as while we're doing the show, no, right? And they're supposedly talking to Carson Wentz. But there's been no smoke on this whatsoever. It's almost as if something's already done. I talked to Tony before the show, Tori, and I said, I think there's something already going on in place between Aaron Rodgers and the Minnesota Vikings because he's made no advancements to talk to the Steelers or the Giants. Apparently, he still wants to play. So, Torrey Holt, what is your perfect quarterback situation for the 2025-2026 Minnesota Vikings?
That would be for them to make a deal for Kirk Cousins and him to lead them.
Oh, for God's sake.
I knew you were waiting for it. Play it. Quality control. Where's that soundbite? You like that? You like that? Tori does.
I would love that.
But could it? I mean, Tori, that actually could happen, though, because, if Kirk decides he wants to come back as a backup, because he might not have a starter by the time this is all settled. Now, Atlanta kept him. So right now it looks like they're going to keep him for the season because they get no benefit.
Atlanta's paying him.
Yeah, they're paying him, right? And Tony, if they were to release him, or even if they trade him, the other team's got to pick up. They won't pick up that much of a.
I mean, the Viking. This is all Kirk's own fault. I mean, the Vikings tried to bring him back. He would have started for the Vikings last year. He chased it. I get it. His wife was from that area.
A lot of money.
There's a lot of money. Arthur Blank threw him a lot of money. Yeah,
I can't blame him. He took the best deal.
A lot of guaranteed money. But that's part of why he hasn't won. I think personally, I do think he's a lot better than people give him credit for. He has robbed the bank, but it's by him doing that's why he's been set up this way, where people just don't buy into him, and it makes him look like an elitist. And I think that if they were to get him back, he would be able, fully healthy, to still compete for the starting job. Might be the better quarterback. I don't know. I don't know enough about J.J. McCarthy. I just can't believe that J.J. McCarthy, not practicing an entire year, they're going to make all of these moves, and then they're going to go, okay, you're our guy. Go win the Super Bowl. Well, because they're not playing for year 3. Yeah.
Well,
they're playing for this year.
Yeah, that's why I think they're going to wait.
That's why I do think that something else has to be going on. And it's so weird that Aaron Rodgers hasn't made any statements, no tweets, not talking on McAfee, nothing.
Well, is he in a cave somewhere? Meditating
in a cave?
He's out on Malibu. He's here 30 minutes away on the beach right now.
I don't know. I honestly, the Vikings haven't really come out. Have the Vikings come out and I had a press conference and said, no, JJ's our guy?
You know what? The Vikings haven't had a big presser where they announce all their free agents. Yeah. They haven't had any of those this year.
It's interesting.
And then this whole thing with, and like you said, he hasn't been on McAfee. Usually he's on McAfee running his mouth like there's no tomorrow. He hasn't been on McAfee at all.
I honestly think something's up. If I had to make a bet, today, I would bet that somebody else other than JJ McCarthy is a starting quarterback in week 1. I truly believe that, just because of the way it's been handled. I could be completely wrong. I don't have any inside information. The only information that I did get was that the Vikings, from a source that I have inside the Vikings, that they said they were trying to work something out with Aaron Rodgers, and that was 3 weeks ago when I did post that kind of cryptic thing. Because I did hear that was the case. And
I did.
I heard that
was the number one choice, right, Tony?
I heard that with my connection that he was going to be a Viking. And it wasn't in it, and it was one person who was beating on the table for him the most. But he was going to be a Viking, and the person told me he was going to be a Viking by the end of last week.
And here's the other aspect of it, Tony.
I think the personality stuff might get overblown a little bit. I think that there's a lot to it that you can see from the outside, but I think it might get overblown a little because his past teammates seem to all really like him. And get along with him. I haven't heard anybody really trash Aaron Rodgers as a teammate or anything. And that's where you would look first, I think. And then the other part of it is he had a pretty good year last year on a horrific football team.
He finished really strong. Again, though, the Jets were out of it.
Jets, though, I mean,
numbers. Yeah. But here's the thing. I'm going to tell you.
You go for 28-10 with the Jets. What's he going to do with this offense?
Yeah,
Sam Darnold's not going to come close to what he did last year.
There's some truth to that. And here's the other aspect of it, Tony and Tori, is the fact that if Aaron waits this out, right? Supposedly there's a quiet deal, and KOC and Aaron are text buddies. Okay, they do text each other, right? We do know that for a fact. And I think they both live out here in Southern California. Well, KOC's in Minneapolis, but he has a place out here. I think they still kept it. So they're pretty close there in Malibu. The fact is this: wouldn't Aaron Rodgers like to travel a little bit and not go to training camp? Wouldn't Aaron Rodgers like to kind of show up, say August 18th, maybe the middle of August? Maybe he won't do it the 18th because that would be a little too.
I could see May.
He doesn't want to be like
August 8th.
August 8th, right? August 8th.
He's going to have to come in May.
Right? August 8th.
He's going to have to. Here's the thing, though. You do that, you think about it with the way that the culture of this team is, and then all of a sudden you're bringing in Aaron Rodgers.
No.
Well, yeah, because he's going to bring in the Netflix. He's going to bring in.
Yeah.
I could see him coming in May after the draft.
You think after the draft? Okay. Well, he might, but he doesn't have to. I mean, he probably at this stage wouldn't mind missing training camp.
But I mean, if he's going to play if he's going to do the diva thing, I mean, it's not good.
Well, okay. So then the other thing.
Brett Favre did it. Brett Favre did it for 3 years.
Yeah, well, the last one that Favre did, it really hurt him.
Yeah,
and that's why he wasn't prepared to play against New Orleans that first Monday night.
But I mean, and you got to think back then in that year, the Wilfs knew they were that close to a Super Bowl and needed a quarterback.
Yeah.
And they knew it was going to. They knew that. Well, and Brett Favre was brought here to sell tickets.
They made
bottom line.
He competed. Yeah, and he competed at probably his best level.
Yeah,
that was his
fun
best
fact.
Year.
I will tell you this. So that year, NFL Films picked 5 fans to follow throughout the 2010 season. The Wilfs were funding a documentary on the 50 years of Vikings football because they thought that was going to be their year. Mm-hmm. NFL Films followed me week to week in my personal life and everything. And I was one of the 5 fans that was going to be documented in this. They were going to have a big screen premiere and everything in Minneapolis, downtown, red carpet, the whole deal. And when the dome collapsed, Ziggy Wilf cut it. He didn't want it done because they were having such a bad year.
And it was just not going to happen that day.
I would have been awesome. I would have lived in me in NFL Films.
Did you get a copy of some of that? That's huge, Tori. Did they give you like some?
The guy who produced the 30 for 30 4 days in October, Stu Kirschenbaum, he worked for Phillies. He knew Robbie Smakowski, the Fox Sports North sideline reporter. Robbie was a friend of mine. Stu had reached out to Robbie if he knew any Vikings fans with unique personal lives. And at the time, I was a broadcaster for Mountain West football, the state high school league. And so Robbie gave him my name, and I ended up getting chosen. And then the Vikings season,
that's cool.
Disaster, and then the dome collapsed, and then they said, "Hey, we're pulling the documentary. We're not finishing it."
And the Vikings let us down by not doing what we were hoping that they were going to do in 2010, which is finish the deal, right?
They had that one great comeback against Arizona at halftime. They were down like 24-3 or something, and the fire chili chants were loud inside the Metrodome, and then
he was gone. He was gone 2 weeks later, wasn't he?
And then he got canned 2 weeks.
He got canned 2 weeks later after he lost to as bad as he did to Green Bay. That was the
Well, from what I understand, that this is true. Brett Favre didn't even listen to what he was calling his plays.
Yeah,
he just called his
heard
own.
that. Yeah,
that's all right. You don't know what you're talking about. We're gonna go with this. So
I sat next to Chad Greenway randomly. He bought our tickets that we get for our season tickets for the 2014 All-Star game when it was at Target Field, MLB All-Star game. So he ends up sitting like two people down from me. So I talked to him the whole game, but I was asking him about that 2009 championship game, and he did say one thing that was interesting. I asked on that fourth and inches where the Saints went for it in overtime, and Reggie Bush got hit, lost the football, then reestablished it back behind the line of scrimmage and got stopped. And then they gave him the first down. I asked what explanation. They said zero explanation moving forward. Like they didn't even acknowledge the fact that he lost the football behind the line of scrimmage, lost yardage.
Yeah.
And they just put the football forward and wouldn't listen to anybody. And like he felt like it was almost.
And the Vikings couldn't challenge. I mean, Childress couldn't challenge that.
Challenge it.
Yeah.
They might have, right?
But it wasn't even, it was almost felt like and then the Lieber got called for the pass interference.
The bogus pass interference,
he didn't even touch him.
Yep.
And Greenway was very upset about it. And he was telling me they all felt like it was like
fixed.
He's not going to say it, but like it felt like it was almost like it was fixed in the overtime.
Yeah.
So many people think that.
Well, they wanted. I mean, the NFL wanted the Saints in the Super Bowl. Let's just be honest.
That was the Katrina.
That was Katrina.
Yeah.
They wanted that feel-good story. So.
So, anyways, what were we talking?
We're getting off the Aaron. So, to kind of parallel this back to Aaron Rodgers, though, right? Like Brett Favre. Okay, you're asking someone only one quarterback after the age of 40, if I'm not mistaken, has won a Super Bowl, that being Tom Brady. So, you feel more comfortable with Aaron Rodgers coming up here to Minnesota to play for the Vikings and to get the Vikings to the promised land than you do J.J. McCarthy, Tori?
I do, because I think his game is just predicated on understanding the game of football and being able to deliver the football. And I think he can do that. And I think he can move just well enough, especially with a revamped offensive line. And he's automatically going to have the clout as soon as he walks into the locker room. I think with J.J. McCarthy, again, to me personally, I'm not saying I'm an NFL coach, but I coach quarterbacks at UNW with Division III football. Like, you go to a lot of clinics and you listen to NFL guys speak. The practice time that he missed last year is invaluable. Like that is huge, missing all of that practice time last year.
What about him, though, getting a year to kind of grasp the speed of the game, getting to go to all the meetings, getting to kind of learn from Sam?
That was good. I just think that losing that practice time is big. And I mean, maybe he is the guy. We don't know. I don't know. I'm not at practice every day. I'm not with the guy.
None of us are.
He's a born winner. He's got a great – go watch that Raiders preseason highlights.
That was awesome.
He looks like Joe Burrow. I mean –
yes.
Yeah.
Arm strength.
Ball he threw was that Jalen Naylor down the corner for the touchdown.
Like perfect pass. Arm strength, incredible.
Yeah.
And that's what – listen, I'll take the advice of two people, right, Tony? I'm going to head it up to you on this next. I'm going to take the advice of Tom Brady pretty much, I think, because most of us consider him.
And our guy, Jim Harbaugh.
and Jim Harbaugh. In fact, guys, remember how we were saying, oh, well, if he liked him so much, wouldn't he have drafted him? Well, he couldn't trade Justin Herbert last year. But I am telling you, there are rumblings that the LA Chargers and the Minnesota Vikings, come draft day, will work out a trade. Now, I know, Torrey Holt, you're going to be kind of excited about this. Me, I don't know, because I really want to see this kid play. That the LA Chargers are going to get the Minnesota Vikings first-round pick and J.J. McCarthy, so Harbaugh will get to complete it, college and pro, and we would be getting Justin Herbert. Now, if it happens, remember that we talked about it on this day, but it is out there. I'm not the only one mentioning this, that this has actually been discussed. Remember, KOC, or the Vikings, not KOC, said, hey, we're receiving a lot of calls for J.J. McCarthy. Well, could that not be one of them, Tony? And if I put you now in Kwesi's seat, Justin Herbert, your first-round pick for J.J. McCarthy, with the team that you just put out there now with the veterans, would you possibly do it?
Herbert's got that big contract, though.
I guess the Vikings can absorb it, because there would be no other reason why they'd be talking to the Chargers, unless the Chargers are going to pick some of that up for this year. And remember, the Vikings are like at $100 million next year, even though Darisaw and Jefferson contracts will go up.
And those were friendly contracts to the team, though.
Yeah.
You know what?
That's a tough one, isn't it?
He's good.
That's a real tough one now.
He's good. And, Tony, have you seen him play much? Do you watch Chargers much?
Yeah, I do. I get the chance. I'm lucky. I got my jailbreak my Fire Stick, so I get every NFL game. So I see a lot of the Chargers.
If you guys have watched him play, here's one thing. I love Justin Herbert. His size, his mobility, his arm strength is off the charts. He's usually pretty accurate. He seems to have a hard time when the game's on the line.
Well, that's a big deal.
That I did notice.
Have you noticed that?
Yes, I did.
I've been a big Justin Herbert guy.
But he's got all the skills, but when it comes crunch time, he kind of freezes up.
He was horrible in the second half against the Texans last year.
God, yes.
So that kind of brings this point up, right? Then if Jim Harbaugh wants him so badly, and if that is out there, then maybe that tells you maybe we shouldn't get rid of J.J. McCarthy, Tony Bell. Maybe we should just stick this out. Finally, this franchise drafts a quarterback, Christian Ponder aside. Let's just try to forget.
We don't count Christian Ponder here.
That was a first-round pick. That was the Vikings. I know we've said, well, we haven't drafted. Well, we did Dante Culpepper, but that took a year, right?
He's had a year, yeah.
Yeah, so and JJ's had a year, though he will really be a rookie. As Torrey said, he hasn't practiced. He hasn't played a real game yet. But maybe we should be a little leery if Jim Harbaugh is behind that, right? There you go. If Jim Harbaugh is behind it to trade to try to get J.J. McCarthy, maybe we should say no. Maybe when Jim Harbaugh said he's the best quarterback of last year's class, that maybe he's onto something, because all J.J. does is win, Tony.
Well, here's the thing, and we brought up Dante. Now, remember, after 99, Denny wasn't bringing Jeff George back. Right. But he went so far as to talk to Dan Marino and try to talk him out of retirement.
So he wasn't sold.
So he wasn't sold on Dante.
No.
He was not sold on
AOC right now with JJ, right?
Right. And we're seeing it with JJ. It's kind of like, I like JJ. I loved him at Michigan.
Yeah.
I want to see what he can do. That Raider game gave me hope. But here's my thing.
Excited.
Here's my thing as a Viking fan, why we do this. We get a quarterback for our future, and they're not counting Ponder. Why do we keep getting these retreads? Why can't we get a young quarterback?
Although Brett Favre's not a retread, Aaron Rodgers, these are first ballot Hall of Famers.
Jim McMahon, Randall Cunningham.
Yeah, that is retread. That is retread.
Rodgers is a retread. How many teams? He's been with the Jets. He's a retread.
Well, I think he's a one-year guy. I mean, we want to win a Super Bowl. We want to win it this year. We don't want to wait for 26 or 27. You have the team to do it today.
Here's the thing, but here's my thing, Torrey. What has Aaron Rodgers did in the last 4 or 5 years that you think he's getting you to a Super Bowl?
He's played well. I mean,
so is Kirk Cousins. How far did that get us?
It's kind of true.
His team, the Vikings sucked.
But you know what? When you got a good quarterback, you can overcome that.
Sometimes.
Kind of true.
Sometimes.
No, most of the time.
I mean, Jeff Hostetler won a Super Bowl. Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl.
Yeah, Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl.
You don't need a great.
You're talking about those guys played with teams that had historically good defenses.
True.
You know,
we're
not talking about a good defense that particular year. Historically good defenses. Aaron Rodgers.
Keenum got him to the NFC Championship game.
Aaron Rodgers in this year went for 3,897 yards, 28 touchdowns.
Sure.
The year before he was hurt, obviously. 22, he went for 3,700, 26 and 12. So, I mean, can your guy do that? Yeah. I mean, JJ could do that.
But those numbers in today's NFL are common ground because of days of passing.
But the 2 years before that, 4,100, 37 and 4, and 4,200, 48 and 5.
Okay, yeah. Where did he end up?
Didn't get past the NFC Championship.
You didn't get past the NFC Championship.
I mean, it's a team effort. I just think that it's hard to win in the league. It's just really hard to win in the league.
We know that, but still.
I mean,
Aaron has not been in the Super Bowl. What did we come up with? Aaron has not been in the Super Bowl.
He hasn't been in the Super Bowl since 2010.
That's as long as Brett Favre was before he came to the Vikings, which is kind of ironic. When it's
hard. It's a one-game playoff. Kirk Cousins has always played good in the playoffs. Look at his playoff numbers. His playoff numbers, if you look at game for game, Kirk in the playoffs, go evaluate him. His play has been elite, high-end play throughout the game in the playoffs, all of his playoff games. And he's won one playoff game.
Well, but we can say, though, Tori, because I remember
playoffs? Don't talk about it. Playoffs?
Yeah, thank you, Jim Mora. I can recall the one time when you called me after the Giants-Vikings game, and you were not too happy with one Kirk Cousins because on 4th and 8,
it was 2 yards. It was one play.
That's a situation. But hold on.
Why don't you throw the ball up and give Jefferson a chance?
That's what you needed to do.
That's what you needed to do, but he played it safe. He thought he went underneath the Hawkinson.
Panic.
With TJ Hawkinson's not beating any Giant down marker if he tried.
No.
Okay, that's a losing
we went back
play.
and broke that play down, and that was a terrible play call. And
all right. So as we go around here, before we get into the weaknesses still left on the team, and then looking a little bit ahead to April in the draft, Tony Bell, your starting quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings this upcoming year is
JJ McCarthy.
All right. Torrey Holt, your starting quarterback.
I don't know who it is, but I don't think
Okay, if you have a list, if you have a top 3 list, you can say, this is your time. Aaron Rodgers won, right? Out of who's left? Or Russell Wilson, maybe?
It's difficult to say because of the way the Vikings are handling the situation. You feel like something else is up, and that's where I'm saying it. It might be 51-49, but I feel like it's a 51% chance that somebody else other than JJ McCarthy is the starting quarterback on day one. I just feel like you do all of this stuff to hand it off to JJ McCarthy. Unless they're seeing something that we've never seen before, and this guy is the Dalai Lama, then I don't
Brady
know.
Thinks so.
Could it be Kirk Cousins?
Yeah.
Could it be Aaron Rodgers? Could they go and sign
66
Joe
and 4,
Flacco?
Torrey.
Why haven't they signed Joe Flacco yet? If they were gonna turn it over to JJ McCarthy, why haven't they signed Joe Flacco?
I don't know. That's my choice.
That's another one.
My choice, guys, for quarterback 2 is Joe Flacco. I would love Joe Flacco.
I think he's great too. But my point is if they were going to go to JJ McCarthy, then why isn't free agency wrapped up and they signed Wentz or
100% correct?
Because here's the thing:
something else is going on. Right?
You know this very well, Tori. This front office loves drama of any kind and any headlines. Yeah. They love it. They don't care if it's positive or negative. And we don't have one person making the decisions. We've got a committee.
Yeah.
And that's probably going to come back and bite this team in the ass in the end in something. And it could
not to
be
say that she's always right. Not to say that she's always right. But today on the Dan Patrick Show, Rossini said, this is only a prediction. She said, there's no inside source. This is not, but this is just her prediction, is that Aaron Rodgers will sign with the Minnesota Vikings. And it's kind of like, it's like they know that that's going to happen because they're not doing anything.
Somebody is putting
I hope they do.
there.
I hope it's a 1-year deal if they do.
Right. It better be.
I would rather see
gotta be.
Rodgers.
It's got to be. If Rodgers is going to sign up here, it's going to be a 1-year deal.
Well, the Vikings hope that's the case, but Aaron's agent and him probably don't.
They've won a 2-year. They want a 2 or 3-year deal.
Well, you know what I would do? I'd give him a 2nd-year option if he makes to the Super Bowl. Doesn't have to win it necessarily. If he takes the Vikings to the Super Bowl, I'll kick in the 2nd-year option because then he would have had an amazing.
I think at that point, then you win the Super Bowl. Now he can retire, and then you turn.
Yes.
Now here's my thing.
Walk off without taking.
Here's my thing. I'm going to play devil's advocate here. Why am I letting somebody who the last 2 years hasn't exactly set the world on fire and he's been a headache and a cancer to a team? Why am I letting him dictate to me when I'm that close?
What's happening? But that's what could be happening.
Why am I as a team letting this 40-plus-year-old has-been quarterback dictate to me what he wants, how he wants to do it, and when he wants to do it, when I've got a young quarterback that I can either ride or die with, and I've got a team that's built right now to ride or die with that young quarterback, but I'm going to bring in this prima donna?
It's a first ballot Hall of Famer.
I'm just saying.
He's won how many MVPs? 3 or 4?
4. I think he gets he gets the ball out. He gets it on time. He's got a strong arm. He understands the game.
He reads
moves well enough still.
Yeah, he reads defenses better than any.
We have a strong running game, great offensive line.
Okay, Eric, you say he reads defenses really well, right?
Yeah, he does.
Okay, then how the hell do you throw that pass in London and you do not see Van Ginkel standing right there?
Van Ginkel,
you throw it right to him.
Ghosts.
Van Ginkel. You had a Sam Darnold moment. Okay?
Van Ginkel did that to about 4 guys this year. And if Van Ginkel could catch, he would have 3 more touchdowns.
He had one with the Niners. He was right there. One with the Niners hit him right in the hands.
Detroit game, he had one.
Yeah, Detroit.
Big game. That would have changed the game.
All right, gentlemen. So we have not solved the possible quarterback.
I say no. I say it's not J.J. McCarthy.
Okay. Tori, you don't say it's JJ because of the experience factor. Tony and I think we feel good.
I'm on the JJ train.
I'm okay with a good running game and you can protect him, which I think they've done a good job of. We'll see, but there's, they got all training camp. They can look at, see where JJ is health wise. Aaron might still be out here in Malibu or in some tent somewhere with some magical mushrooms trying to find himself, and then wait until August. And then if Kevin O'Connell doesn't feel confident enough, well, guess what?
Put it this way: when
Pat
McAfee announces that he's going to have Rodgers on, that's when you know the decision will be made.
That I think you're right. I think you're 100% right. Yes,
I do want to make this point.
Yeah,
on record that I am not against J.J. McCarthy. I like J.J. McCarthy.
I know you do. I know you do.
I'm not sure that he's Joe Burrow. He's
21 years old. He is 21 years old.
I like him. And I think he could be the franchise for the Vikings, and we could all get behind him, and we all wearing J.J. McCarthy jerseys 10 years down the line, and he wins us a championship. I'm just saying, for this year, I just really would like somebody else.
Right now, you don't think he's ready.
Right now, I don't think he's guided here. I don't think he gets it done, and I want to win now. I want to win this year. I
want to win now too.
I don't want to win the wild card game and lose in the divisional playoff in a close game to Detroit and be like, we're going the right direction.
Thank you, Tori. Thank you, Tori. It's all about one thing, and the wheels better be on. It's about winning a Super Bowl. That's all it can be now.
At least
anything else is a consolation prize that they can jam it up for you know what, because we're not putting up with it. It's got to see a Lombardi Trophy come in the next 2 or 3 years. Got to happen. Got to happen. I mean, Viking fans have suffered for 60 some odd years. Let's get it done. All right, really quickly, guys. Any weaknesses, Torrey Holt, that you still see other than the quarterback, that you see that the Vikings might have, that they might have to address in the draft, maybe June 1st cuts, or still yet in free agency, if there's a player you see that you would like that you think the Vikings might take a shot at?
So we're rolling with Harrison Smith.
Yeah.
We're rolling with
Josh Metellus.
Yeah.
Theo Jackson.
We got our starting corners are Byron Murphy.
Yeah.
So our defensive back, and then a bunch of guys that are.
I don't know if Okuda's got anything left.
Yeah.
Well, this is a project.
Is Shaq Griffin back again? Did they?
No, he's still out there.
Don't be shocked if he is come back. If he,
I would like to see Shaq Griffin back. He'd be more exciting than Okuda because Okuda has done nothing.
And we got Blackman coming back from IR.
Yeah, Blackman will help. He can stick Blackman on the corner.
So the defensive backfield is probably our weakness right now. Our linebackers are good. Our front four is going to get pressure. Should get pressure. Our front four looks good. Looks like we are going to be able to stop the run. Offensive line strong. Got a really good tight end coming on a second year after the ACL. Usually is a bump in their physical ability. Usually comes back after that second year. We have the best wide receiver in the game. Got probably the best number 2 wide receiver in the game. I don't know. I think this team is good, and we got depth. I think there's some depth there. Right?
I think they did a good job in that.
Stay away from injuries. They're going to have a shot. If
on paper they look good, right, Tony? But you look at the division as a whole. When we look at the weaknesses, I think you could argue, Tony, the Bears got better on paper, right? On paper, the Lions.
That's every offseason with the Bears.
True. Yeah, that's true, right? The Lions, I think, went down a step because they lost 2 of the premier coordinators to head coaching positions. And they really didn't do a lot. They brought DJ Reed in. The big thing for the Lions is getting Hutchinson healthy again. That would be a big boost for them. And then you have the Packers, who literally the fans are like posting funny memes of nothing. The Packers signed today, and it's a picture of nothing. They kind of believe in the draft, which is pretty much how you should build a winner, though, too. So, Tony, I mean, are the Vikings in good standing within their division? And that's the most important thing before we even talk about playoffs and Super Bowl as far as what they've done in free agency so far.
Well, think about this. If you're an NFL free agent, why would you want to go to Green Bay?
Freezing your ass off.
Hanging out at Walmart on your days off. Yeah. I mean,
what do you do? And get all
Minnesota.
They've done nothing.
They've done nothing. But I'll tell you what, Minnesota's done the most, which leads me to believe that Minnesota's probably going to win this division.
They could.
Detroit.
A lot of people have picking 4th right now, probably because.
Well, you know what? Don't listen to Colin Cowherd, okay?
Colin Cowherd's the biggest Sam Darnold. Somehow Sam Darnold's on the payroll because.
And here's the thing with that. I mean, Detroit right now, they haven't done any upgrades, but you lose your 2 coordinators. That's a big shot. And Dan Campbell's going to look like a meatball with his choices.
Well, we'll see how good.
We'll see what Johnson does with the Bears. I mean, Caleb's got the tools, but he can be an enigma himself.
And the other aspect, Tony, Vikings trading up, trading down during the draft, or do they just sit where they are? I think the Vikings are in an awesome position for the draft, believe it or not. I only got 4 picks, but they can just sit and wait. Maybe one of those stud defensive tackles, stud running backs, stud whatever, maybe even a safety because we're addressing the cornerback.
Okay, I'm going to put it out there. I did some mock drafts, and I traded out of the first round. And every time I traded out of the first round, there was Kenneth Grant.
I would jump up and down if they got Kenneth Grant.
If that falls to fruition, I'd be happy as hell.
Or Walter Nolan out of Ole Miss. These guys are studs.
I don't know. Do you guys stick at 1 or do you trade down?
I'm going to trade down, Tori. What are you doing?
Depends on what they do at quarterback. Are they going to have a big?
Now wait a minute. That's a good point, Tori, if they sign Aaron Rodgers, could the Vikings trade up to get another weapon of some sort? If the Vikings sign Aaron Rodgers, you're all in for this 1 year. Could they maybe trade up and get another star receiver, another offensive lineman that's top of the heap? Because that left guard position looks still weak to me.
Yeah, I wonder. They make a deal, like you said. Like, I wonder if they make a deal for Herbert, and we lose those picks, but
That is yet to be.
That's crazy.
seen.
That what I heard on the SKOL North podcast there, that deal.
That they've actually talked, that it's been talked about before. It's been out in the
it's been talked
and
about.
Harbaugh had to be told he couldn't trade Herbert because of that contract, that something kicked in, or he might have done it. I mean, this might have already been a done.
I tell you what, Harbaugh, if Harbaugh gets JJ McCarthy somehow, how much you want to bet
before we do?
How much you bet he calls the Rams to get Blake Corum?
Put it all back together.
He'll run it back with that Michigan team in the NFL.
Right. Blake Corum's in a really good spot, being the Rams running back 2, because McVay's going to use the you-know-what out of him this year. You watch. Corum will be a fantasy getter this year if you're out there to play.
All right. Did Garoppolo go back to the Rams?
Yes, but there's a weird thing about Garoppolo is the Rams might draft a quarterback depending if someone falls. And if that's the case, Garoppolo could be a June 1st cut. I know they just signed him, but it could happen. And that could be a quarterback, like I'm saying, I wouldn't mind Jimmy Garoppolo. That's a veteran. You come in there, you know he can win some games. It's not pretty sometimes.
Well, here's another question. Say the Vikings wait until June 1st. Rodgers is still there.
It could be. Yeah, could be. They could wait till August 1st. He might.
Is there going to be like a cap hit or anything to the Jets or anything like that for him?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know how that works as far as that goes, but he's getting a lot of money from the Jets no matter what he does this year.
So he could he could be a June 1st signing.
Maybe that's what they're waiting for, and something we don't know about has already been.
And when you think about it, June 1st, hell, the friggin' Falcons could probably want to trade friggin' Cousins, and
well, then we'll have someone very happy in the bottom left corner.
It'll be you two on Viking shows. I won't be doing it.
I need to see I need to see the Kirk that threw for 500 yards against Tampa, not the one that couldn't throw an out route against San Diego or LA Chargers.
That's true. All right, gentlemen, our final thoughts. I start with you, Tori, and then we wrap this up. And thank you for watching here on the official Purple Skull Squad show for Minnesota Viking fans. Tori, your thought on just the offseason so far, or looking ahead, being a Viking fan. Hopefully you'll be joining us more often as we're doing this, but your take on what's happened so far.
Well, I think we talked about it. I just reiterate that they've had a wonderful offseason. They've really addressed the need of the offensive line. They have the 1-2 punch in the backfield, someone to take the pressure off of Aaron Jones, someone to take the pressure off of the quarterback situation. The receiving package is pretty much set. They kind of got to find that number 3. The defense looks like it's going to be good. I think one of the I'm a big Brian Flores guy. I think that was such a huge keep for the Vikings to be able to keep him as the defensive coordinator. To me, you don't make all this noise and then turn it over to essentially a rookie quarterback. So I think that on day one, you're going to see somebody else other than JJ McCarthy. That's what I got.
Okay. All right. And Tony Bell, final thoughts from you, sir.
It's JJ's team. You run with him.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. For years, like I said before, we've got retreads at quarterback. We have not had our own. And then when we did have our own, we blew it so bad till we were scared to get another quarterback. Well, now you have that. You have JJ. He's had the injury. You got the running backs. What helps a young running back? What helps a young quarterback? A great running game. That helps any quarterback.
You could argue
a great running game.
You could take the argument your way too, Tony. As Tori said, I don't think they do all this to put a rookie, but you could say they added all this experience to make it easier for a rookie quarterback like JJ McCarthy. And I kind of concur on that. And I wrap with this is I think, and I've said this, and I'm on record as saying it, ladies and gentlemen of all Minnesota Viking fandom, wherever you are watching this show, where I am in Los Angeles, if you can believe this, the Vikings are about to become champions, not once, but twice, maybe even more with JJ McCarthy. This kid, watch the tape, listen to what Jim Harbaugh said. Jim Harbaugh said this best. I slowed him down. I asked him to play a game of run the ball first defense predicated. What did JJ McCarthy do? under this? Did he complain? He said, "Oh no, coach, I really want to, I got to make sure I'm out there and I'm throwing the ball around so I can be, Jaden Daniels and one of the top picks or Caleb Williams." No, he didn't complain. He didn't run to his mom in the stands. What did J.J. McCarthy do? He won a national championship. He gave you a 27-1 football. Okay, I can do that. When Tom Brady says, this guy's got a stronger arm than I do, and it's seriously like I'm looking and talking into a mirror, I'm going to take that. And I'm going to run with it. And it's probably why, Tori and Tony, the Vikings have had so much money to spend this offseason, because we finally get a rookie quarterback contract. So let's see what that is. And if it fails, well, then you're back into the draft pool, or you're going to sign another veteran next year. But at least you'll get to see what JJ is. And there's the talents around him. How many young quarterbacks like J.J. McCarthy get to start their career with a Justin Jefferson, with a Jordan Addison, with a T.J. Hawkinson, with now Ryan Kelly and Will Fries at the interior of the offensive line? Oh, behind me, Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason. This is a phenomenal time to be a Minnesota Viking fan. Smile, because we've had too many frowns for 60-some-odd years. This is the start of something real special. And on that note, we bid you SKOL, and we'll talk to you next week.
SKOL, everyone.
SKOL.
You've been watching the official Purple Skull Squad
Rodgers.
show for Minnesota Vikings fans. Will the Vikings keep adding to a historic offseason? Keep it locked here on the page
Apparently
for
Aaron
all your
Rodgers' story.
updates. See you next time.
Oh, El
SKOL!